This is the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Niemann. If you're looking to generate wealth and passive income in the lucrative world of mobile home parks, you're in the right place. You'll discover solutions to the common legal and operational pitfalls and how to optimize parks to maximize income. Your host is in the trenches. He's a real estate attorney, financial analyst, and mobile home park investor and operator. Now, let's turn it over to Ferd Niemann.
Welcome back, Mobile Home Park Nation. Ferd Niemann here again today with another episode of the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast. This is going to be episode 200. I really didn't think I was ever going to get this far. So kudos to you guys that are still listening or that listen to all of them. This has been a little bit of a labor of love. My pace has slowed down here in the last couple of years due to some other bandwidth and just personal business desire to slow down a little bit. But today I thought I'd do a little bit of a recap of some lessons learned from some of my acquisitions. Maybe get into a little bit of the business plan, but really just lessons learned. This will be short. Some of this would be repetitive from some of my case studies. And I got a few other case studies on some recent refinances and sales and stuff that I want to give you guys insights on. But today we're just going to look at my 24 parks I've acquired. I've actually acquired one of them twice. There's an interesting story there as well. And just kind of, in general, my business plan is pretty similar for most of the parks. I mean, most of them, it's, buy something off market. I think I've bought 2 of the 24 on market and from the same broker. The other 22 were off market, and the goal is just really value add, increase occupancy, submeter water, sewer, fix the roads if necessary, cut down trees that are bad, demo homes that are bad, infill, raise rents and raise rents fairly modestly. A couple of parks we've raised rents kind of at a medium level, but generally we're pretty on the low medium side just for a number of reasons. But most of them are the same business plan. I mean, we had about a couple that are already stabilized, just bought them right, and had a good deal. Didn't have much to fix. I got a couple of them that were super heavy lifts. Some of them are smaller parks, some of them are medium, couple larger ones. My sweet spot is in between 50 and 100, but I've got several parks below that that I'll cover here. So I'll just rattle through these fairly quickly, and maybe if there's anything distinct about the business plan, maybe I'll highlight that as well. But I don't really do a lot of notes, so it's kind of a little bit ad lib here. I've got a list of my parks in front of me, though, so at least I got that going. So my first park was my hometown. I no longer own this park. It was called Valley View, 54 sites. We probably demoed a handful. I can't remember as much. It's been a while. It's been about 10 years since I bought that park. We demoed a handful of homes. We brought in, 15 homes or so. And one of the lessons learned was park-owned home remodels on 1970 homes is slow and expensive. That was kind of what we did. I mean, our all-in cost, to give you an idea, this is in 2014 to 18 when we were doing this. And it was slower, and I didn't have a lot of capital, so I only bought one park. In hindsight, I probably should have bought more faster. But we would purchase, transport, install, and renovate a home for $18K, which in today's world is kind of unbelievable. So these were lower dollar homes, and then we would sell them, at cost. And if somebody could buy them cash, we would really want to sell them quickly. And we'd use the same cash. I had about 90K to play with, and we recycled that over 15 to 20 homes. So it took a minute, and you made a little bit of cash flow along the way, but we actually did not have positive cash flow on this park until the month we sold it, because we just keep pouring cash in, and then boom, we got it stabilized. We flipped it. I bought it for $695, sold it for $950. So pretty nice little chunk. Next park I bought was also my hometown. It was 18 sites. One of the lessons learned is a small park like that can be pretty easy, and that there's limited exit opportunities. I had a little bit of trouble selling it, and this is the one that I bought back. So I bought it back more recently is number 24. And as the part of the lesson there is you kind of know your strategy. Is your strategy X or is it Y? And the first time I bought it, the strategy was X, which was, increase occupancy, increase rents, submeter, and then flip it. The second time, the strategy was, there's a lot of park-owned homes there, and they were nice. So I'm like, let me rebuy the park and then convert the park-owned homes to tenant-owned homes or relocate them to other parks that are higher dollar market. So we actually bought this park somewhat to strip it for its parts. That was also the purpose of park number 14, which is a 16-site park. It had 10 nice homes on it. We bought it cheap, and we relocated 8 of the 10 homes and then sold it as a 2-unit park with upside. And the other benefit there, we sold it to a rookie. The guy paid cash, paid way too much, but we ended up making a nice chunk of change on a little 16 side park. We never even signed a lease. If you were already on a lease, we let you finish out your term. And actually, we just let it. We waited to the left, so it took a minute or two. But if it was a vacant home, we just moved it out. We never, that was a unique approach, um, but it worked out pretty well. For the parks we sold them to, our own parks, and then it worked out pretty well for this little park as well. Um, my third acquisition was in Canton, Missouri. I learned a lesson from a law firm mentor that said he used to say this to development boards and zoning committees that were hostile, and he would say, "Capital goes where it is welcome, and it stays where it is appreciated." And his point was, my business, my Home Depot, my gas station, my hotel, it's not going to come to this town and stay in this town if you guys don't treat us well. Well, this little town, I got the verbal that I was going to get a variance to bring in homes, and then a different park had a house fire that someone died at. So they then pulled the plug on me and said no variance, and I had to do this post closing because of my timeline. So I did it on a handshake with the mayor, and when they backed out on me, I immediately listed the park for sale. And that's actually how I sold Park Two because I ended up um, selling them as a package. My next park was in Central Illinois, 65 sites. The lesson here was just, good is good enough. We bought it and it was like 35 and we filled it up to like 51 or two, but it was a slog. Parkland Home, this is a blue collar market. So we have a lot of used homes, heavy renovation, couldn't find local contractors. So we were sending crews from all over and spending an arm and leg on some of these renovations. Luckily we bought the park cheap, 135,000 and for 65 sites. And it was rough. We had a lot of work to do. We ended up selling it for over 900K. And that wasn't all profit, but we made over $250,000 on that deal. But we realized, the juice ain't worth the squeeze sometimes. So we just decided we're not going to take it to full occupancy, which is normally what we would do. We just said, you know what? We bought it right. Let's sell it at a fair price. Let the next guy have some meat on the bone. And, win-win for me and him. So that was 65 sites. The next park was 100 sites. The key here was fight. It was about 22 occupied tenants. Now it's full. The key here was fighting for your zoning rights. I've got a case study on this one where one of the key things that worked out well here was I fought the city to have zero setbacks on my lot lines. So I've got 76-foot lots and I got 76-foot homes and I got about a half an inch to spare. Whereas the competing parks in that market didn't fight the city and they had to live with 10-foot setbacks. So they were trying to sell 56-foot homes and I was selling 76. So I kicked their butt. And part of it, new homes are easy to sell in a great market. This is a great market. And at first I bought like 5 or 6 new, 5 or 6 used. Then I realized I could sell all 10 or all 12. So I realized don't buy more used homes. They're paying the butt. So I just the next 50 homes were brand new, and they sold just fine and quite quickly actually. We filled that park up in like 18 months, which pretty unbelievable. Not easy to replicate. So you got to have everything's got to go right. If you're selling 3, 4, 5, 6 homes in a month every month, and doing all the capex and submetering and the rule stuff and leasing and increasing rents and all that, so you got to have a good combination of underlying facts. The next park is 96 spaces. It was actually like 90. It was 92 when we bought it, and we've added on a few. We had expansion rights for it, and we've added a few. Here's a lesson here was we paid a fair price for this deal. It was not a steal, but paying a fair price can still work. And high quality will beget high profit. So we've made a ton of money in this park. We bought it for $1,425,000, which at the time, this is like 2018, so like 5, 6 years ago at the time, and that was the fair price. And it ended up we overpaid a little bit because the guy misrepresented on a few things that we didn't realize, like city sewer. Well, there was a portion of the park apparently was on septic, and the septic was failed, and we didn't notice that in our inspection that it was septic. But the first day we bought it, somebody said, "Will you fix our failing septic?" So a couple things like that. Occupancy was not as good as we thought. Misrepresentation a little bit. We had no records. We closed that deal on an LOI, so we knew it was gonna be a little rough buying it from the roughneck redneck, but we made money on it, and now that park's worth about $4 million because we've improved it a lot. We infilled a handful, we expanded a handful, we've been able to increase rents, we've been able to keep costs low. We run that park at like a 30% expense ratio, and there's a lot of demand in the market. It's a really nice park. concrete roads, gutters, not even gutters, but curbs, off-street parking, excess parking, storm shelter, duplex on site. All of the homes have either a carport or a garage. So, lots of double wides. Some people have gazebos and landscaping and stuff. So it's just a really nice park. So, that quality is going to make money in the long run, even if you didn't buy it at a bargain. Next park was 54 sites. This is one that I did like 25 handyman specials. So we had like 52 occupied lots, but only 26 with tenants in them. So the other 26 homes we gave away, and we did it within like 6 months. So the value just went through the roof. And I bought it crazy cheap. I bought it for less than 10K a site, in a $400 lot rent market. So pretty good deal. Pros and cons though, it was super dense. So the pro of that was I had zero common area maintenance. Like I had no mowing, no grass. The con is if a home burns down, I've had a couple happen, you can't refill it. And it's hard to get high quality tenants when your homes are 10 feet apart. And when parking becomes a nightmare and so on. And you end up getting a little bit rougher tenant base. So that park has had some challenges with some rough tenants, some serious challenges. Somebody killed a cop, to give you an idea. Yeah, that actually worked out in my favor. No disrespect to the cop, but that was the only way I could get rid of these guys. This drug dealer, he was super scary and violent and causing lots of problems. And the police were not really helping that much. Well, they were just like, well, we got to get evidence. We got to catch him on tape, which was hard to do because they would deal the drugs inside the house, and we'd see people going in and out, but we didn't know if they were just coming over for some other reason. But when he killed a cop, the SWAT team from the state came in and they just drug all the guys out of there, and my woes went away. Next park, 20 sites. This is in Des Moines. The lesson learned here is it's a great market, so it makes sales really easy. We sell homes like in a minute. We have strong collections. We have no drama. And it's just in a strong rental market. We don't even rent the homes there. We're like, no, we're not renting them. We're selling them only. And I got a really good park greeter. So, solid park greeter can do a lot. Next park, 49 sites. This one, the lesson learned was if you have city streets that the city owns and city utilities that the city owns and direct bill, water, sewer, trash, everything makes life way easier. So that made that park pretty easy to maintain. Another park we bought shortly thereafter in the same market was 125 sites. This one was a heavy infill, and the challenge with this was it was pretty remote. I mean, it was like, for example, we said, hey, if you got to pay your rent through rent manager, or you can do cash pay through their Zego pay lease thing. You got to go to Walmart. It's like a cash pay at Walmart. And we put that in the letter. And when we took over to park, and I didn't really think about it, but these people responded and said the closest Walmart is 5 hours away. I was like, oh, so we had problems. Like we shipped a playground there, and the guy got there and he goes, where's your dock? I go, I don't have a dock. He goes, well, when we're driving in the middle of nowhere, we don't send the trucks that have the lift on them. We just send the bigger trucks that you have to back up to a dock. So I didn't have a dock, and I didn't have heavy machinery just waiting to lift this thing. So the truck turned around, drove home. So I had to then pick my playground up at the distributorship and put it on a trailer and drive it 9 hours there. Not ideal. So that was a tougher park. Next park was 36 sites. The lesson learned here was fighting City Hall. On zoning issues, I'm pretty good at it, but fighting them over life safety issues is a losing proposition. The city gave me a bunch of grief on an electrical upgrade that I didn't anticipate, and it's made me want to get out of that town, and we sold that park. But another lesson learned, we brought a lot of new homes in that park, and even though it was a kind of a rough and tumble park, you can change the look real easily if you go from 20 homes to 30 homes, and the 10 you drop in there are brand new. So it kind of makes the old ugly ones blend in a little bit. Next park was 68 sites. The lesson here was just buy it right and sell it right. This is a park that, honestly, the guy we bought it from was running it better than us. It was his baby. He built it with his bare hands. He had a shop on site. I mean, we did a good job running. It was pretty easy to run. And we had very lean operations, like a park greeter for like 150 a month. But we didn't run it quite as well as that guy. But we ran it well enough. What we did better was we fixed the roads, we brought in the playground, and we filled the last 3 or 4 lots. So we also bought it off market at a high cap rate and sold it on market. A shout out to Ken Scheffler at Yale for this one, and he sold it at a great cap rate, and we made a lot of money on it in a real short period of time. Next deal, 41 sites. This is not only buy it right and you can absorb some occupancy decrease. So we bought this park and there was like 6 or 7 RVs. And as soon as we bought it, we bought it at a good price. We found out the RVs were like a group of guys in some drug ring. We missed that somehow. So we had to get rid of them. Well, then their homes got destroyed or moved out. So we lost, out of 41 sites, we only had like 30 occupied. We went to 25 in a minute. So that stinks. But we bought it at a fair price or bargain price. So we did okay. And then it's just put a little bit of money into it, kind of a lipstick flip, and that works out okay too. The next deal is the one with 16 sites that we stripped it for the parts. The next deal was 93 sites. This park was rough, man. And we had to do a lot of stuff to Transforms community. And I just submitted an application to refinance this with Fannie Mae. So we got, which means we got there. It took about 3.5 years, where I thought we could maybe do it in 2, but a lot of infill, a lot of bad tenants that we had to get rid of, tons of trees to cut down. We put in a dog park, a playground, a picnic area, mailboxes. We converted the old laundromat community center into an office and a shop. We didn't do any road repair here. There's a lot of rough homes, a lot of park-owned homes that we had to remodel. And here we actually had some homes we bought that were like old school classroom buildings that had no interior walls. It was just 4 walls and a roof. We have like 20 of those. They're nice looking homes, actually. They look like nice double wides, but we had to build them out from scratch, bedrooms, bathrooms, cabinets, plumbing, etc. So ton of money on park-owned home repair, or not even repair, really construction. But overall, we've turned that park around and done really well there. The first year was tough. Second year was kind of tough. The third year was like, we might actually pull this off. Next 2 parks, 47 and 48, they're in the same town. The lesson learned here was good to have a qualified municipal zoning attorney. I happen to know one, and that's probably made me. I just got the refinance. I just signed the paperwork 20 minutes ago for these 2 parks. It's probably a $2 million victory. The difference between not beating, but yeah, beating, if they're listening to the city, cooperating and collaborating with the city, but beating the city to allow me to do what I want to do, which is infill the sites with maximum size homes, which means I need to get some relief on setbacks, age of home, density, parking, etc. I was able to put together a 20-page legal memorandum and drop it on the desk of the city and politely say, this is the facts of my draft lawsuit. Let's just play nice. And we ended up doing a little bit of compromise where I agreed to, I don't even remember what I did. I agreed to like leave a little bit of setback, or I agreed to not put more parking here. Or I agreed to build excess parking here. So ended up getting a collaboration with the city that in a good market that allowed me to take 2 parks right by each other and make a lot of money on them. And then also in the one park, we converted a bunch of the rough park-owned homes to tenant-owned homes, which is a tough proposition to do. But in a good market, it's viable. So we basically had some really crappy homes, and the city has a really onerous inspection requirement. So we were going to have to pour tons of money into these homes. So we just basically told the residents, like, look, we're going to not renew your lease, and we're going to demo this home, and we're going to put a nice home on there, which you can buy or rent if you want, but it's going to be way more expensive. Or we can give you the title of the home and you could be a homeowner right now. And we're going to drop your rent. You're just doing tenant-owned home rent. And they went for it. And they've stayed and they've paid and they've band-aided the homes and put a little money into them and it worked out well. The other park was, it was a B park. It had a good, pretty good operation. It had good bones, but it had no amenities. So we turned it into an A park with just a few tweaks, decor, painting the bad homes, taking the hitches off, and then adding amenities. Made this park, now this is a really nice park. And it's like I said, these 2 parks we just did I haven't got paid yet in the refinance, but I just signed the paperwork on the refinance, the final paperwork, so it's going to happen. Knock on wood. Next park, 127 sites. A lesson learned here is just because it's beautiful doesn't mean there's going to be demand there. This is a very well designed park with winding streets and trees and a pond for fishing, a community center. We repaved the streets, so the streets look good now. We put in a dog park, a playground, and a covered picnic area and a dock for the pond. And it's a nice looking park, but we've infilled. We bought it, I don't know, I want to say it was like 35 or 40, probably like 40 out of 127 occupied. And we've brought in like a dozen, but we lost a couple, gained a couple. We've been increasing occupancy at a very slow clip, which is not what we were hoping for. And it's just because there's just not enough demand in that market. And I knew it was a little soft because it was softer than, the stats were inferior to some other parks, but I thought, there was not good opportunities in town. So like, well, we don't need to get a ton of people. We just need to get more than the little homes in the city. And this has been slow going. The next park's 38 sites. One of the lessons learned here is if the seller is a bad person and they got low character, they're dishonest, they and their family are drug addicts, their side business is stealing copper. It's hard to figure this out, by the way. But if you have a if you have a problem like that at the time you buy, it doesn't go away very easily. We've been fighting this seller for 2 years, coming back on the property, throwing stuff in our dumpster, coming back on the property, setting our dumpster on fire, breaking into homes, pulling a home out that they apparently own that we didn't know about, not giving us titles to our homes that we had to purchase, which we're supposed to go to through the process and get mailed to us, but then they intercept, and all kinds of problems with this. And the park's doing better than when we bought it, and we're doing okay on it, but the seller has slowed us down because of their obstinance. Okay. The next park, 55 sites. The lesson learned here is this one's been one of my more challenging properties, and I'm surprised by it. It's a nice little park in a good location with great visibility in a nice little town, which is kind of a suburb of a bigger town. And we thought we'd have strong demand. We had good demand on the test ad, but we've not been able to move homes like we thought. Um, and I think part of the problem is we didn't look back at multiple years of rent increases. The rent was, I don't know, let's say the rent was 350 and we bought it. We said, well, let me see the last year. It was 325. Let me see the last year. It was, you know, the year before he said like, I didn't do a rent increase. Like, okay. So I kind of, part of that's my mistake probably that I said, okay, it was 350. And then before that was 325. Before that was 325. Well, the catch was apparently this guy told the tenants, instead of a rent increase, I'm going to pass back $100 of water. So he actually increased rent $100, which put it kind of at its limit. So when we went to raise rent $35 and bill back water, people were like, no, water's free. That was part of the $100 increase. And then all of a sudden people couldn't pay the $35 as much. And then we put a ton of amenities in this park, even a pickleball court. And it was pretty much wasted. Like nobody uses them. The tenants are ungrateful. So it's been a frustrating park. The next one, 152 sites. This one had a low occupancies, but had a lot of hair on it, a lot of capex, private utilities, etc. So the lesson is, buy a park with some hair on it that other people don't want. You can get it pretty cheap. I bought this park for like 4,000 a site, and there's a ton of upside. Now a lot of work to get to the upside, these kind of parks, you got to probably only buy a limited number of these at the same time because you got to balance, the amount of problems and challenges you can face. But once you get over the hump, there's a ton of upside. But I wouldn't budget, and I didn't budget to turn this around in 3 years. This is maybe a 10-year project. Next park, 100 sites. Another one, buy cheap and mitigate the risk. I bought this for like 8,500 a site, and we put a ton of capex into it, and it's working out really well. We've had it for about 16 months, and we have good marketing there. So we're bringing in. We just bought like 10 more homes to send to this park. It was about 45 out of 100 occupied. So I probably would have thought it was going to be definitely a 5-year or longer infill, but it's looking like it's going to be less than 5 years, maybe even 3 if things go well. Really nice park. At this point, it was rough when we bought it. Next park, 101 sites. This is kind of a covered land play because it had a bunch of expansion land and commercial ground that came with it. So it's a nice looking park. We've done a lot of good work there. Sales have been slower than we like, considerably slower actually. And I think part of the problem is it's a smaller town, and if one or two things go wrong, in this case, the university has had like 15% decrease in enrollment, apparently. I think because of COVID. When the COVID came back, the people didn't come back. They just kept doing remote. And there's a bunch of foreigners in this university, so it's much easier for them to, be in India and go to college online as opposed to move to small town Iowa. So we bought it at a reasonable price, so we should be okay on it. But we're not filling it at the rapid clip that we thought. And during our DD, everybody in town told us, "Oh, you're going to crush it here." The city, the transport guys, the construction guys, everything. Oh my, you're gonna have so much demand, and it's been underwhelming. So, lesson learned is, sometimes your DD is not perfect, even though you think you did it right. The 24th Park is the one we in Quincy that we bought 18 sites. So I already talked about the home. And second time we bought it to relocate the homes. So anyway, a little bit, those are some basic lessons on each of these, a little bit different for each park, but hopefully you got a little value out of that. If you have ideas for other topics you want me to talk on, by the way, go ahead and shoot me a message, and happy to provide some additional content and commentary if I can. Till next time, thanks and God bless.
You've been listening to the Mobile Home Park Lawyer Podcast with Ferd Niemann. Ready to learn more? Go to www.themobilehomelawyer.com for free resources and materials to help you succeed. If you love the podcast, go to Apple Podcasts, give us your review, and subscribe today. Thank you for listening. Neither the Supreme Court of Missouri nor the Missouri Bar reviews nor approves certifying organizations or specialist designations. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements.